Oh, yeah. People also need encouragement.
Welcome to another episode of Chewing the Fat. I am your host, Big Rob. Thank you so much for tuning in and downloading the podcast. I certainly do appreciate it. And to the folks that have bought me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com, thank you for your financial support. It helps us to continue to tell these beautiful, messy, human stories. And calling in today from LA, please welcome Kelly Moscinski. Kelly, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for agreeing to be here. Kelly is a casting director, business owner, entrepreneur, world traveler that I met in the VO community. And she's just got such a great attitude and life about what she does and the care she gives to the work she does, but also her family and everything like that. So that's why I wanted to have you on and talk to you more about who you are and what you do. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So LA, is that home for you? I mean, I know it's home now. Is that where you grew up and all like that?
I actually grew up in Michigan.
Okay.
So, yep, I'm originally from Michigan, Christmas, Michigan, to be exact.
Oh.
I grew up in a little tiny village on Jingle Bell Lane.
What?
A lot of people are like, "This can't be real. Like your life is like a Hallmark movie." I'm like, "It's real." Jingle Bell Lane, Christmas, Michigan. Look it up. That's where I grew up.
That's so cool.
So yeah. So in the cold, right on Lake Superior.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different than Los Angeles. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But LA is definitely home now.
Yeah. So what was life like for you growing up in Christmas, Michigan? Were you always interested in the arts and things like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, my family, I actually grew up in a very sports-centric family.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were both coaches of various sports. My brother was big into sports. I played sports, but I was always terrible at it. It was not something that I loved. It was not something that I was good at. But it felt like it was something that I had to do,
Yeah.
In small town, it's like you're kind of limited in what there is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I kind of found my way into the arts through dance.
Oh,
I
wow.
was a ballet dancer for about 14 years. I was on point shoes, ballet was my thing until I had a couple of injuries in high school that required knee surgery, ankle reconstructive surgery, which also then took me out of sports and all of that. And that's when I got into theater. So I didn't actually get into theater until I joined the drama club in high school.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of the start of it. And then, I mean, the rest is history after that. It's like once that hits, it sucks you in and yeah.
Yeah. It was so, and gosh, that's got to be devastating. And I'm sure we can talk about some of that, in the next segment, to have been doing that much dancing and then for have something that takes that passion away from you that way. But it's great that you found another passion. Not necessarily to replace it, because I'm sure that passion is still there, but to be able to do something else that allows you that kind of artistic, creative outlet. Do you remember what one of your first shows or roles were when you made it into the theater side of things?
The funny thing is I often worked behind the scenes. I love doing the sets and doing the painting and, all of that kind of stuff. The first time I did any sort of acting was kind of coming off of those surgeries and getting out of sports. And I was like, okay, I just want to be involved somehow. And what the drama club director ended up doing is there were two of us, me and one other girl, who were just kind of getting started. So we didn't audition for the show that they were doing, but he was like, I want you guys to be intermission entertainment. So my very first time on stage, I was actually like intermission entertainment. I don't know. We were dressed like hippies. We were just reciting quotes like Confucius kind of quotes. And it was the strangest thing, but I was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
Like I get to do something different, and I'm on a stage again. I'm not dancing, but I'm entertaining, providing that entertainment to people. And that's really where I feel like it was one of those things where I was like, I didn't necessarily want to be an actor, but I wanted to provide joy to people.
Oh,
It's like I wanted to put that into people. And in a small town, there's very few opportunities for that sort of thing. So yeah, and of course that all snowballed, and I was, basically running the community theater there. I was directing a lot of shows. I was acting in them. I had some lead roles in some, community theater shows and stuff. It just that wasn't where my passion was. It was the directing, putting everything on.
Yeah. 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 I love that. Did that passion follow you into college? Did you pursue a degree in that or anything like that?
Yeah. So I originally went to college for pre-med.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I wanted to be a psychiatrist. So my focus was in psychology. Fun fact.
Yeah.
So I got into pre-med, and essentially that first year I was doing a lot of the elective classes and things like that you have to take. I was doing psychology classes. I took a theater class, all these different things. And when I sat down to meet with my advisor, he was essentially like, we got to go back. We got to do remedial math. We got to do this. And I was like, you know what? My heart's just not in that. Maybe I don't want to be a doctor, and I was loving the theater, and I was getting very involved in the theater department. I was like, okay, but you can't just go from being a doctor to getting a theater degree. Like, what do I do with that? Yeah. So I ended up switching my major to education. It's like, I'll be an English teacher, then I can do the drama club, and I can do all this stuff. Basically got all of my credits. The only thing I didn't do was the student teaching, but I would have had a degree in education. Finally, after year 2, I was like, I'm just going to go. I'm theater major. Like, that's what I need to do. Yeah. Just going to be a theater major and see where that goes in my life.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in theater, and then the theater department offered me a full ride to get my master's. So I was running the box office. I was teaching some classes and doing all of that during my master's degree, which I ended up getting my master's degree actually in writing, creative writing. My thesis was a play that I had written. Oh, awesome. I was the first student to direct one of the main stage productions for the university. So that was pretty cool. I got some great opportunities there. But it wasn't until I put aside plan B and just went full in on plan A. This is what I'm going to do, and we're going to see where it takes me in life.
I love that. What school was it? I assume this wasn't Christmas Community College or anything like that.
No, Northern Michigan University. So still in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, about an hour away. It was in the same city where I was dancing. So I was driving an hour to and from dance classes all those years.
Wow.
Very dedicated parents. Doing homework in the car and all that stuff so that I could dance.
But that helps so much when you do have those passions and you do have people that are there to support you and like, let's make this happen. I do think that's really interesting though that you went for psychology, because there's a lot of psychology in what you do now and what you do as a director on stage, how to get a performance from someone, other than like just here's a line read, here, say it this way. It's get them to connect with the material to be able to give that performance, give that vision that you have, and then to encourage them without maybe they actually knowing and that's what you're doing as well, Yep. So that's really interesting. Because I mean, there's commonalities between those for definitely.
Absolutely. And I had a moment while I was directing the main stage show at the university. I had a moment where it's like I had a couple of actors come up to me and they were like, I never know what I'm doing right with you directing. So I found out, and I'm so glad that they were so open with me about this, because it changed my style for forever. It's like I'm still like the way I direct and the way I coach now is influenced by this moment. But they came to me and they were like, we're just not ever sure if we're doing anything right, because all of your notes are things to fix, constructive criticism, but still like it's always things to fix. And I realized, in my head, I was like, no note is a good note.
Yeah. Yeah.
So keep what you're doing. If I didn't mention it, fix the things that I'm mentioning. And I realized, and this goes back to psychology, it's all part of that. But I was like, oh yeah, people also need encouragement. They do need to know what they're doing right, because if somebody is just always telling you what you're doing wrong and how to fix it, that is going to take its toll. And I was seeing it on stage. I was seeing these actors just kind of shutting down slowly, rehearsal after rehearsal. And it's like, as soon as I started incorporating, like, oh, I loved this moment when you did that, it's like they started to light up again. And that made all the difference. And so that's why, it's like a lot of people are like, you're always so encouraging. And I'm like, yeah, because there's something to be said about that too. I get better performances out of people with some encouragement, because then they can keep that confidence.
Yeah.
Then you take that constructive criticism a lot easier if you also know you're doing things right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there is a part of us, especially as performers, actors, even just humans, that, the more you hear the negative, the more you start to believe it, the more that lizard brain starts to say, nope, this is the reality of it. You always get notes on what you're doing wrong. You never hear anything you're doing right. So when you give somebody the opportunity to hear something they're doing right, call it a compliment sandwich or whatever, it's like, oh, I loved when you do this. Could you also pronounce this word correctly? And then also, this was great. That then allows them to feel that full range of emotions and be part of that experience, to realize it's not all bad. Yes, there are things that can improve, but it's not all bad. So don't get into that headspace.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I completely agree. And it's like, some people are like, oh, Kelly, be hard on me. Be hard on me. And it's like, I will be hard on you when I need to be and about what I need to be, because I also think that there are directors out there who have the no bullshit attitude, but it's really, they're kind of harsh just to be harsh, and it's like, and there are better ways to go about that. And if that's their style and people, can work well with that, awesome. Then that's your coach. I find that majority of people also need to know what they're doing right, along with, what could be tweaked.
Yeah. No, I love that. So what was the transition then from theater, stage at Northern Michigan University, to how'd you land in Los Angeles? Is there a lot of steps in between there?
No, actually. So when I graduated with my bachelor's, I was actually going to move to New York. New York was the thing. I was like, I'm going to either direct, stage manage, I'm working in theater in New York.
Yeah.
After I had gotten my master's degree, I was like, Los Angeles. Wow. Going to Los Angeles. So graduated in May, moved out to LA in July, started working at VoiceCaster in October. And it just kind of happened, So at that time, you weren't applying for anything online. You didn't have email addresses for everybody. It was one of those things. It's like, I looked up casting directors and talent agencies primarily. I sent out over 350 cover letters and resumes before I even left Michigan to everybody in Los Angeles, because I was like, I'll be an intern, I'll be an assistant. Like, I am willing to work from the ground up, you know. That's one thing I've always had a strong work ethic. Like, I'll do whatever I need to do, like, put me to work. So it was one of those things where I was like, I'm just gonna kind of do what I need to do. And it's so interesting because it was so hard to just get a normal job. It was like, I did some background work. Again, acting, not what I wanted to do, but I was like, let's see what happens. I'm just gonna, I did the background work so that I could talk to the ADs, so that I could start meeting people in production. So then I got a couple of leads on things like that. I ended up working at a theater company here in Burbank, the Colony Theater, which is how I met Catherine, who's our senior casting director at VoiceCaster. I was doing backstage of shows and things like that. I was like, okay, but I need to pay bills still. So like, what kind of job can I get? And it's like, I was applying at banks and all these things. For me, the biggest thing I had working against me is, one, they were like, you're you're overqualified. You have a master's degree. Like you can't be a bank teller apparently if you have a master's degree. So I was like, okay, cool. And then, and then there was the fact that I'm not bilingual. Another thing very helpful in Los Angeles. And so it's, you know, all these things kind of working against me. I finally ended up getting a job at Lowe's of all places. So I was like, whatever, like just going to make some money. I'll do theater in the evening. You know, I'll drop this job when I have something else. And it was 3 days in. And, you know, there were comments from the manager like, oh, I hired you because of your smile. And, you know, all this stuff that I was like, okay, this is gross. Like, I feel gross being here. Then the theater wanted me on a show. And I was like, okay. I was like, so I need these days off for this show. And he was like, no, can't do that. And I was like, okay, then this is my resignation. Yeah. I quit on the spot with no notice because I was like, okay, this is gross. I'm not going to be in this situation. And I'm going to pursue theater. And it doesn't pay much. I don't have guaranteed hours after this one show, but we're just going to go for it. Yeah. And then I ended up a couple weeks later, I got a call from a talent agency. They wanted to bring me on as a junior agent to start. I was like, being an agent doesn't feel like my vibe either. You know, like that, it just felt like meeting with them. I was like, this feels a little too slimy for me. I was like, not all agents are slimy. Right. You know, I'm good friends with some agents and they're not slimy, but you know, it was the whole idea of just negotiations and all these things. And I was like, maybe that's not what I want to do. I was like, I'm going to see what else happens before I have to make a decision. Then Voicecaster called. And as soon as I walked in, I was like, I'm going to own this place someday.
Wow.
So I turned down the agency job. I was still able to do the theater. And 3.5 years later, my boss came to me and said, you know, he's retiring. He's moving. His house is in escrow and he would love for me to take over. He had gotten other offers on the company, but he wanted me to take over or he was closing the doors in 2 weeks. Wow. And I was like, all right. And he's like, well, you can go home. You can think about it, you know? And I was like, I don't need to think about it. Like from the second I walked in here, I knew I was going to own this company someday. And this is that moment.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. And, you know, it's the listening to yourself and your whole story there, listening. It's like, you know, we think of these closed door moments as, dang it, that door closed. Dang it, that door closed as a negative thing. But a lot of times those closed doors are positive things. They are either protecting us from something that we just don't need to be in, but we don't realize that because we're manic and we're stressed out and we're looking at the one problem right in front of us. We're not looking, you know, at the years ahead of us or whatever. We're like, this is the one thing and this is a bad thing, as opposed to thinking of it as, wow, thank goodness I didn't. You know, thank goodness the guy at Lowe's was creepy because I might have felt good and wanted to stay and I might have changed my mind. I might have not had these opportunities. I love that. And that's so encouraging from you to show that, you know, following your dream, but more so following your gut of what feels right for you is what, you know, has led you to now own this company that you knew as soon as you walked in the door that you were gonna own the company. And how many years now has that been?
Since 2013, so 13 years now.
Wow. Yeah.
Actually, in 4 days, it'll be exactly 13 years. May 15th.
Happy 13th year anniversary. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now that's awesome. And in that time, I'm sure you've learned a ton. You've met a ton of people. How has your process changed from when you were, you know, directing on stage and, you know, high school and then in college and then now what you're doing to help, you know, direct in, you know, commercials and all the other work that you do for voice actors?
Yeah, I have found that my process it essentially still has the same sort of building blocks since that moment that, you know, I realized, oh, we need both the good and the what to fix. So my process has gotten a lot more efficient. You know, that's one thing that I hear from a lot of people, whether it's from clients, actors that I'm working with, you know, when I'm directing sessions, auditions, whatever it is, they're always like, you can say so much in just a few words. And part of that really is just, it's a matter of, I've developed the vocabulary where it's like, I also know that saying one word can completely change somebody's direction in what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that, as you start to explain these stories, you get some directors who are just so long-winded that it's like, wait, what was the first thing you said? What did so it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
have learned to really be efficient in giving direction. But one of my biggest things is always trusting the actor.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in enough sessions, whether it's, just as the casting director, as the engineer, where I'm sitting back and I'm, just there doing my part,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not directing the session. It's one of the clients is directing, and it essentially is them saying, like, I was in one time where it was 2 hours of just saying friendlier after every single take, and it's like, okay, can we throw out a different word? Can we can we give the actor something else to work with?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel like it's, for me, it's like I'm going to trust that you as the actor are doing the acting part.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I shouldn't have to say, who are you talking to? I shouldn't have to say, what is your intention? I do, of course, when I'm coaching and everything, because that is such a big part of it and getting that ingrained. But there's a lot of trust that I think has to be there. And honestly, I feel like if a lot of directors just trusted the actors a little bit more, I think everybody would have a better collaborative process overall.
Mm-hmm. Do you think some of that, though, is because you've got the people who wrote the piece, the people who are backing it with their dollars, and then you've got this unknown of an actor. And so sometimes people have created in their imagination their perfect spot before anyone comes in the booth. And they are trying to recreate their imagination in a physical realm when that's basically impossible, because you know what I mean? And sometimes you struggle against and are so stuck on, like, oh, it has to be this way. It has to be this way. Skies are blue, grass is green. It's like, as opposed to opening yourself up to, well, maybe skies are teal and grass is aquamarine, or whatever that the actor brings to it. And then I assume you work kind of as a bridge to help both parties create that final,
Yes.
beautiful piece.
Yep. And as a casting director, that's a huge part of my job, is like, I am that middle person. I'm essentially playing matchmaker. It's like, I know the personalities of the clients. I know the personalities of the actors. And that's why it's like, I'm always saying, like, relationships in that community, like, that's huge. It is rare that I send somebody into a session and I don't know them in some way, having had worked with them, whether it's in auditions or, in, just community settings or class settings or, things like that, because there is that level of, I also have to trust them. I do know that some clients are extra difficult. So I kind of need to make sure that, the talent can handle that. Because I've also seen those situations go downhill pretty quick, where it's like the client might just be very, very direct and not sugarcoat anything. They're not going to tell you anything that you're doing right. And so there are some actors who will shut down in situations like that. So it's, I know the people. So it's like, but going back to just having, everybody has a different vision. That's why when we look at specs and things like that, they're all over the place, because there might be 6 people who are involved in this, say 30-second commercial, and there's 6 people involved. They all have it in their head a certain way.
Yeah.
So it's like, as an actor, you have to be listening to all of these different things, all of these little notes and directions, and they're going to contradict each other and all of that. And ultimately, it's like, you have to trust that what you're bringing to it is what they want. They cast you for a reason, and it's usually because of the you that you brought to it. And I know, just human nature, it's hard to just be confident in ourselves as we are.
Yeah, for sure. So talk me through just a quick, like, you get a commercial. What does that look like? It lands on your desk. you've got to figure out who you're going to send this to, because you're a casting director. So you're going to send it to some agencies. You may send it to some folks directly or whatever. What's the average group of folks that you're now listening for a piece? Because I know you've mentioned before that you've upwards of 3,000 something voices.
Oh man, it gets crazy sometimes. It depends on the project. If there are projects that we just send out to people directly, obviously we're listening to a lot fewer that way, because I'm not going to send it to 200 people directly. I'm going to send it to a very specific group of people who I'm like, these are the people who are right for it. Mm-hmm. And so, it's like on some of those projects, it's like, cool, we only have 70 to listen to, or, that kind of a thing. Or we might send it to 70 and 50 submit, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then there are other projects where it's like, okay, well, we need to cast it a little bit wider. So, I have an A list, B list, and C list of agents that we work with. And so A-list are the ones that, that I like working with. And so those are the ones that I will send to first. So if I'm sending to agents, I'm sending to my A-list. If I need to cast a little bit wider, I'll send to the B-list. If I need to cast basically nationwide, I will send to the C-list. Yeah. So, and then of course we have worldwide contacts as well, mm-hmm. For more specific things. But it kind of depends on what we're casting and who we're sending it to. But we will get anywhere, I would say on average, excuse me, on average, we would get anywhere from 400 to like 1,400 auditions.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And I'm sure your process now, let's see, 13 years of owning the company and being there, 16 years of being there. Is a lot different than when you first there, and you just know within that first 3 to 5 seconds of whatever it is, mm-hmm. that it's like, okay, give that a second listen, or no, that one's going to go ahead and get ejected, and it's not that they did anything wrong, it just doesn't feel right, so we're going to move on, and I'll send something to them again at some other point, but it's just not right for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And the process has changed just with the pandemic. Because pre-pandemic, we were bringing everybody in studio. So if you didn't live in LA, you probably weren't even auditioning for voice caster unless we needed to cast a wider net, or we were specifically casting in New York, or, things like that. Then you probably weren't even auditioning for voice caster. It's like voice caster has been around 51 years this year. And there are still actors who are like, I've never heard of voice caster. And I'm like, because you're not in LA. It's like, it's now that, we're 6 years from when the world shut down. It is one of those things where most voice actors do know us now. Yeah. But for a while there, it was like from 2020 to like 2024, we had people who were like, who's voice caster? What do they do? Things like that coming up to us, me and Catherine at, VO Atlanta and places like that. And they're like, so what do you guys do? Like, well, let me explain.
Right.
But how would they know, mm-hmm. when everything changed in 2020. And so before that, it's, if we were sending 20 auditions to the client, we brought in 20 people to audition. Sometimes we'd have 21, 22, just in case somebody completely blew it. But most of the time, mm-hmm. they didn't. And they were working with us. They were getting our direction, So it's like we were confident with, people came in. So it's like we were choosing those people from a couple hundred demos that we listened to. Mm-hmm. Again, only need to listen to 3 to 5 seconds of a demo to know if somebody's in the right zone for it. And then we can listen more if we need to. Right. But then we just trust that, okay, well, they're an actor. We're going to bring them in. We're going to work with them. Yeah. There are obviously people who never came back in after that one audition for various reasons. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But, we just never invited them back for whatever reason. Usually not even performance wise. Usually it was, just attitude or, just ego gets in the way.
Didn't fit the vibe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you think, do you personally as a casting director look at what happened post shutdown in the industry as a positive Or is it negative? Because like you said, you were casting in person up to that point, and I know you guys are now casting, having more folks in and having some workouts in the studio and things like that again now. But do you look at it as a positive because now you do have an easier access to talent across the country as opposed to prior to that?
Yeah, I absolutely see it as a positive, and for me, that's kind of just my mindset in general is like, I always see the positive in things, I always see the silver lining. And it was funny because once, we shut down the office and I told the staff like, okay, we're going to be working remote at that time. I mean, you remember it was like 2 weeks. If the whole world shuts down for 2 weeks, we'll be fine. Okay.
2 years
So,
later.
it was one of those things where like, we'll see you back in a couple weeks. And then a couple weeks goes by. And then next thing you know, like we worked remotely for 14 months.
Yeah.
However, we were still going in studio. We did all of the protocols to be a SAG authorized studio during COVID and all that stuff. And the nice thing about voiceover is you can stay secluded. There's a different entrance to the actor side than there is the director side. So you can come into our studio and never come in contact with a human.
Yeah.
So we were still doing a lot of sessions and things like that. And I know a lot of studios, a lot of casting places, they shut down completely. We're one of the few who still have a studio. And we're expanding, it's like we have 5 studios right now. We're going to have a 6th. We're working on renovations, so it's like we're expanding while others have, kind of shut down. And I absolutely see it as a positive thing because I have gotten to know so many amazing people, not just talented voice actors, but good people, that I would not have had that opportunity to get to know had we stayed in our own little LA bubble here.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful that happened. And, another thing was like just workshops and stuff. I had always talked about like, oh, I should do some workshops online so I can meet other actors in other places. And, people are getting home studios and things like that. It's like, I need to expand, and it just never happened. So for me, COVID also pushed me to, well, we're going to adapt. We're going to change things. I have no idea what it looks like to run, online classes.
Yeah.
Cool. What's this thing called Zoom? I'm going to look into that and see, so I absolutely think it changed everything for the better. And, it's like a lot of actors are like, oh, but you get more auditions and it's, more saturated now and all that. And it's like, yeah, but it has opened up so much, for me, for my clients. It's like, I feel like for a long time there, I was pushing agents to like, please send me new people. I feel like we're always bringing in the same people. And now it's like, I have found so many amazing new talent, and some of them are not even new talent. They've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years. I just never knew them because they weren't in LA.
Yeah.
So I feel like it has opened up so much, and I love it.
That's awesome.
I'm thankful for it.
I love that. On the actor side of it though, do you think it's because of not being in the booth and be able to kind of give a little bit of direction to the audition, and so now everybody is self-taping and sending in, that you've had to kind of expand those notes on your audition? It's like, all right, I'm trying to front load everything that I'm thinking here because I can't change your performance because I'm not able to give you live feedback on what's going on and tell you to roll an R or not roll an R or whatever, something silly.
Yeah.
Has that changed your process? Have you?
Yeah, it absolutely has. It's like, I try not to get long-winded with specs. I try to keep them pretty close to what actors do. I know there are some specs that you'll see that are a full page, and it's like, I feel like that's just confusing. And again, I have found that shorter, more concise information is always better. I do have some clients who are like, I want this for take 1, this for take 2, this for take 3. I'm casting one of those today, actually. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that's what we're going to do. But it doesn't give the actor a ton of creative license to bring themselves to it because it's so specific. But I do, it is one of those things where I feel like there have been, this is probably the biggest thing that I have noticed is that a lot of times actors they don't just trust and do their thing. They end up doing something like trying too hard, essentially. It's like, it's something that's like outside the box. It could work, but it's one of those things where sometimes I'm just like, oh, this person would have been perfect if they had literally just talked. Like all they needed to do was be themselves. And so I find that a lot of times the actors are just not owning themselves as much because they're self-directing, so it's like they're getting in their heads. They are trying to do a lot more than we need them to do. And I've had times where it's like I'm listening to something and I'm like, if it's somebody that I know well, it's like I'll text them or I'll email them and be like, hey, if you have a chance in the next half hour to an hour, could you just give me one take where you're just like, just talk, like don't do anything with it, just say the words, and I've had people book because of that. So it's like, I will give direction when I can. Right. We do have time slots where people can either come into the studio or, book a time with us. We'll do it virtually, Zoom, whatever, so that we can direct some people if people want that direction, So sometimes people will do it if they're like struggling and they're like, oh, I just don't know. I don't know what I'm doing on this one. Or, I can't figure out a take 2 or a take 3. I've got one take and that's it. And so it's like we still want to direct when we can. It's just, it's not the primary thing anymore. And I do feel like that has affected the actors and the quality of the auditions, because it's sometimes I'm like, oh, they're a shoo-in. Like, this is perfect. They've just be themselves and they've got this. And then they don't be themselves.
Yeah, I feel like you're talking to me, but because because I often will put on the character, get in my head, and try to do something that's like not as natural as it normally is. So
you are not alone. You are not alone.
Yeah, I love that, Kelly. I love that. Just that bit of advice too. So, aside from the work you're doing and the life that you're living right now, what is bringing you joy?
My kids.
Yeah.
I have 2 little ones, a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. They're so fun. It's like every age I'm like, oh, this is a fun age. Also challenging, but it's fun. I just love watching them grow, just letting them be their own little people it's just magical, and then seeing so much of myself in them and just, which is scary, but also I'm like, my daughter is going to like own a company someday. She's definitely going to be a girl boss, but right now I don't want her to be a girl boss.
Right.
She thinks she runs the house. So yeah, but they absolutely give me joy. My nonprofit, I started a nonprofit last year called Blank Pages Initiative, and we're finally getting things really moving on that, which, it's basically the idea of it is confidence through the arts. So mental health, finding confidence, finding an outlet to just be yourself, in this world that tries to tell us what we should be. So we're offering workshops in performance arts, visual arts, music, dance, writing, all the different things. And for all ages, kids through adults, just to kind of give people that safe space, whether it's people who just can't afford to take a dance class or an art class, people who just want to, get into a voiceover booth and get a little bit crazy just to express themselves and have fun, not necessarily for a career, things like that. So just trying to kind of open those doors as more and more art programs are being shut down in schools and things like that, and it's like mental health issues obviously on the rise, they have been for years. So yeah, just trying to do a little part in helping with that.
All right, Kelly, this is the second segment of the show. This is where we'll dive a little bit deeper into your mental health journey, because I believe the more that we talk about this, the more that we kind of take away the power from the negative of the stigma of mental health and depression and things like that, because we realize we are not alone in it. So for you, How do you keep the darkness at bay?
Honestly, it's not always easy.
Yeah.
It's generally, I am a pretty positive person, and that is because I have worked very hard. I have done the inner work. I have
Mm.
figured out, both what triggers are as well as what glimmers are. It's
Mm.
like I call them glimmers. They're the opposite of the triggers, right? The things that trigger the joy, the happiness. And I feel like a big part of keeping the darkness at bay is being able to take that step back.
Mm.
So I like to think of it as, it's when we're in the storm, we can't see anything else.
Yeah.
So it's like this cloud is over us. We're in the middle of the tornado. It's chaos. It's dark. It's terrifying. And you feel stuck. You feel trapped. But if you can just step back a little bit and look and see the rest of the sky, then you can see that that storm is only the small part of the sky. There is more sky on that side. There is more sky on the other side. And it's passing through. So I feel like that has always been a big thing for me, is just feeling that darkness and not allowing it to suck me in. Or if
Yeah.
it does suck me in, then just trying to remember there is so much more. Like I just need to take that step back and know that there's blue sky in the distance,
Yeah.
and it's like, you just need to try to see that whenever you can. And I'm not saying that that's an easy thing to do.
Right.
That has taken me many years to really be able to efficiently do, and actually be able to see that. But I feel like once I've, worked on that and gotten to that point, it has been life-changing for me.
Yeah. I love that. So I'd assume that, that perspective you have now is a lot different than, you had when your ballet career kind of got halted because of an injury.
Yep.
I'm sure it was hard to see blue sky during that point.
Absolutely. It felt like the one thing that I loved, the one passion that I had was taken from me, and abruptly. It was like one day I'm on point shoes, the next day I can't, and I never could again after that. So yeah, it definitely sent me into a sort of spiral. And then of course, I mean, throw being a teenager on top of that, a teenager in a small town, where there's not a whole lot to do. And it's like that, by the time I was, 17, 18, I was ready to get out, I was like, I need to get out of here. Otherwise, I don't know, this is not the life for me. It was, there was definitely depression. There was definitely anxiety. It's like and at that time it was like nobody saw a therapist. I could have definitely used a therapist at that point, but it's like, and then of course, there is that, I mean, I'm going to say Midwest mentality, but it's kind of everywhere where there's a stigma to see a therapist. And so it was never a thing. It was like you just shoved those feelings down and you just went on with your life. So for me, a big part was like, okay, well, when I'm 18, I get out of here. Like I can get out, I can go start my life. I don't have to feel stuck. And like I said, I grew up with very supportive parents, and, I'm very, very lucky in that regard, but it doesn't matter how great that is. It's like things still happen that pull you down, and you just have to kind of figure out. And again, it's seeing that light and trying to see that silver lining. And I knew, it's like I wrote a lot of poetry in high school. And I mean, I have poems that are about suicide and, all these things, because it doesn't feel like there's that out. And, so for me, it was very much like I'm graduating and I'm getting out of here, and it's like, and I did. I mean, I barely keep in touch with people that I knew in high school. I still have a couple of friends that will catch up once in a while. It's like, I know people who still have like their best friends from high school. For me, it's like, I needed to let go of all of that past in order to figure out who I was at that point, and it's not an easy journey.
I think especially being from a small town, I mean, I'm in a fairly small town. you kind of get defined by your geography. And when you're in a small town and, well, everybody knows everybody's business and blah, blah, blah. And it's the rarity to find people who have expanded beyond those borders of that city or town or county or whatever it is, that have gone off and not come back, or gone off and, made something different than what they grew up in. I mean, that's difficult, even though there were probably hundreds of thousands of people that wanted to, but they just didn't feel like they could.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of the thing that breaks my heart is, it's like, I did have parents who supported me. I did have parents who were like, go to college wherever you want. I was looking at one pre-med program in Alabama, and they were Alabama's so random, but they had a great program for psychiatry, at least then. And so, it was just, they were just like, go do whatever you want. When I moved to LA, they were the ones who, my dad's truck loaded up, pulled the U-Haul and, moved me out here. So I've always had that support. And, without that, I mean, I probably still would have clawed my way out of there, I would like to think. Yeah. I'm a very determined person. So, but it's also hard, and it breaks my heart that not everybody feels like they can get out. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think there is just some, and that may happen. We say small towns. You could be in a small town living in Manhattan. Because of what your scope of influences, your friends, your family, whatever it is. It's like you may just walk the one block back and forth between your dad's corner grocery store and the apartment or whatever it is, and that's now your world, and that's only as big as it is, even though you're in one of the largest cities in the world.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us as people to break free of that stuff. And a lot of it is the believing in ourselves, because we want to lizard brain everything. And I must be hearing all the bad things. It's all the bad things. And I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough, whereas if you just try, give yourself the chance to try, as opposed to believing that negative inner voice.
Yeah. Yeah. I call my negative inner voice is my pessimistic co-pilot. I've got my pessimistic co-pilot always right there, but I try to get her to sit in the back seat so I don't have to listen to her as much. Yeah. Because that's important. I'm driving.
Yeah. I love that. Because it's we're all going to have that, no matter what a positive person we are, and we're all going to have that at some point. There's always going to be that frail chink in our armor that we can't, that is going to stick its head. It's like, hey, you sure you're good enough for that? It's like, I know that you got that email without audition, but do you really think you can do that? No, I don't think you can, and so confronting it and saying, all right, I see you. I hear what you're saying, but I don't need that right now. I know you're trying to protect me from something, but I don't need to be protected right now. Go ahead and sit back and watch, and if things go sideways, then maybe we'll talk again. But I gotta at least try first. Yeah. And I think just being, and it's easier said than done.
Always.
Being able to give yourself the permission to try.
Yep. Always. It's like, and it feels risky and it feels scary. And that's usually how you're doing the right thing. If you're terrified to do it, usually that's the right next move.
All right, Kelly, it is time now for the third segment of the show. It's time now for the Fast Five. The Fast Five. It's time now for the Fast Five. Fast Five. Sorry, I'm still working on a theme song for the show, and I'm still just kind of workshopping that right now. But the Fast
I love
Five.
It. I think you have a winner.
Oh, thanks. Fast Five is powered by Poddex. It's an app created by my friend Travis Brown. If you go to chewingthefatbr.com/Poddex, it'll take you to where you can download the app. It's great for podcasters, but the great icebreakers as well. No wrong answers. Just the first thing that comes to the top of your mind. You ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Question number 1. When is the last time you cried?
Yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. Are you a
A
frequent
good
crier?
release of feelings, and I'm not ashamed of it. I let my kids see me cry. It's one of those things where I always tell them like it's okay. And here's the thing is I cry about everything. Like I'll cry if I'm sad, I will cry if I'm mad, and I will cry when I'm happy. Like
Yeah.
I'm just one of those people. I have shoved it down too much for too long that I'm like, whatever I feel. If the tears come out, the tears come out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a easy crier myself. And I will cry at commercials, which is, I'm sure great for the people that produce the commercials and stuff like that. But like, I am a big old softie. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with shedding a tear.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. What would constitute a perfect day for you?
Oh, getting a good night's sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always happen, especially with kids. And then I think just having the freedom. And I will say that a lot of my days end up kind of in this zone. I'm very fortunate to have some days like this where it's like I get the slow morning. It's like I can write, I can just relax, enjoy my coffee. I can do some work. I love what I do. So it's like, even on the weekends, you might find me working because I love what I get to do. Yeah. Spending time with my family, going to the park or going to the beach or things like that. I also love just relaxing at home, whether it's just sitting outside or watching a movie or, things like that. Anytime I get to just slow down a little bit and not feel like everything is on me and everyone needs me and, all of that external pressure, that's a good day for me.
I love that. Question number 3. Is there any local dish or food product from where you grew up that you miss?
Yes. So first of all, Mackinac Island fudge, but specifically Mackinac Island fudge ice cream is the best, as well as pasties. So a lot of people don't know what pasties are, but pasties are essentially it's like a meat pie. But yeah, so I do miss those, and I'm a ketchup person, not a gravy person. If you know pasties, you're either team ketchup or team gravy. I'm team ketchup.
Interesting. My oldest son lives in Cornwall, England, and so they're famous for the Cornish pasties. So he knows how to make those and things like that. I don't know if they put ketchup on it. Probably put HP sauce on it. I don't know if they put ketchup on it, though, but yeah, I'll have to talk to him about that next time.
There you go.
I love that. Question number 4. Do you consider yourself superstitious?
No, not in a traditional sense. So it's like, I feel like 13 is a lucky number. I've kind of reversed a lot of superstitions. I'm like, oh, if a black cat crosses my path, I'm like, it's going to be a good day. I don't know why, but yeah, over the years, I kind of have reversed things where I'm like, I'm going to take that as a good sign.
That's awesome. Yeah, I also think that 13 is a lucky number. So it's always come up somehow that 13 is a lucky number. I love that. And question number 5. What was the first car you ever owned?
A Chevy Blazer.
Ooh.
A 1995 Chevy Blazer.
Oh, wow.
And I took that thing back roading. I can't tell you how many times I got stuck in mud and all the things. What else is there to do in the middle of nowhere?
Right. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Great memories, I take it.
Yes.
Like I said, you don't have much to do. Let's go off-roading in the Blazer.
Yeah. Let's see where we can take this thing. It's got 4-wheel drive. Let's see how far we can get.
See what that means.
Only had to call my dad a couple times to bring a winch and get us out of the mud, try to describe what trail we're on. Go past this tree and then turn right. And Oh, yeah.
I love that. What color was it? Do you remember what color it was?
Green. It was a
Oh,
dark green.
okay. Very cool. Very
Yep.
cool. Well, that is our Fast Five, and that's the show, Kelly. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Yeah, this was awesome. If folks want to keep up with you and what you've got going on personally or with Voicecaster or Blank Pages, what's the easiest way they could do that?
Yeah, so all three are on Instagram. So the Voicecaster is just the Voicecaster, all lowercase. Kelly.Moscinski.vc is me personally, and then Blank Pages Initiative is for Blank Pages. You can also email me. It's kelly@voicecaster.com. So feel free to reach out about any of those things.
Awesome. I'll make sure to put those links in the show note as well. Again, thank you so much for being here. I love what you're doing, and I wish you nothing but success with everything that you've got coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for doing this podcast. It's incredible.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And if you would like to support this podcast, I would appreciate it if you bought me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com. But until next time, I look forward to the chance we have to sit a spell and chew the fat.